welcome to Throw Lefty, where we talk about what it means to push through challenges and rebuild your strength and of your physical aspect and mindset. My recovery has taken many forms. I did, physical therapy, occupational therapy, tons of different technologies and braces to help me get to where I am today. And my guest understands that too. This is Antonio Turner. He is a retired Army veteran who survived a IED explosion. Since that day, he had to rebuild all of his movement and learn to walk and live again. It includes many different aspects of the challenges that some people may go through. And yeah, welcome. I'm so honored that you're able to come on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start with foundation. I want to understand more about, what happened and how do you get to where you are today. What did it mean to you to serve in the Army?
So I was we call it a post 9/11 baby. So prior to 9/11, I was in high school actually, skipping school, which I don't condone. But I was skipping school that day that 9/11 happened. So of course, uh, supposed to be in school and a national disaster takes place. Of course, everyone's just making sure that everyone's okay. I lived in a national capital region pretty much my whole life growing up. So of course, mom was frantic and trying to figure out where everyone is. Once we realized what was happening, I called my mom just to make sure that she knew that I was okay. But I think ever since then, I kind of had kind of that fire of just why they do that to us, why this happened. So I just kind of had that. I don't even know where it came from. I just kind of I felt like I wanted to do something about it. And then later, after I graduated, I went to college for a short stint, and then just kind of decided to go. I don't know, calling, I guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't that great at much then, but I just thought I wanted to put forth some sort of effort to help out.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you remember from the IED explosion? Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Oh, absolutely. So we were on our way back to base. We were in Afghanistan in Bagram Airfield. We were in a non-up armored vehicle. Non-up armored meaning it didn't have the the steel, the underbelly that has an extra level of protection. It was a generic kind of Toyota Tundra. I think they were called Toyota Hiluxes. So we were in that vehicle, and probably from here to the other side of the desk, there was an estimated bomb that was between 150 to 225 pounds. That went off. Luckily, our vehicle wasn't on top of it because we wouldn't be having this conversation today. But it moved our vehicle. I just guesstimating a couple feet in the opposite direction. It cut the vehicle off because that type of explosion kind of sucks the air out of that general area. And I hit my head on the roof of the ceiling. Just kind of a perfect storm. The way the doctor explained it, the way I was aligned, which caused the inflammation in my C2, which we can get to a little bit later as well. Which at the time it just hurt and it wasn't kind of a big deal. So we dismounted the vehicle, kind of took a perimeter to look around to see if we were in any more danger or taking small arms fire. The driver got back in to see if the vehicle would start. It did. We all got back in and then kind of drove back towards post. My neck at that point was still just kind of sore. So, of course, since we were hit, we had to go get checked out by a doc to make sure that, if we didn't have any like adverse reactions to the explosion. Other people in my vehicle suffered from mild head injuries, some a little bit more than others, but everyone was okay. A couple hours passed. I continued on my regularly scheduled program. I went back to the gym, and then during my gym exercise, my left leg started to feel numb. You know how if you sit on the toilet too long,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels it just feels really tingly. But I was standing, so that was really weird for me because I'm stubborn. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I'm just kind of stomping my foot away, thinking that I would fix it. It doesn't subside. The people I was at the gym with, I said, hey, I'm not feeling the greatest. I went to the aid station and ran into, can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a private. And it was, since it was late, he was like, well, he's in for the night. And I was like, hey, buddy, I don't care. This is weird. I need to really get some attention. So he wakes up the colonel. He's a little upset because of the time. And then I tell him what's going on. He doesn't have a clue. Fast forward, he does a bunch of cognitive tests where they bang on your knee and get reflex tests. But of course, the level of medical service where we were at wasn't. It's almost like a triage. Like it wasn't really. He couldn't do surgery or anything like that. It was like this is where you go to get water and Tylenol. So I start to feel more numbness that floats up to my hip and then back down to my right leg. And then at that point, I am freaking out. So then we go back to, oh, you guys were hit today. This could be an adverse reaction from that. And I'm like, oh, okay. They call more medics. They call long stool because there's a like a transition that you make going from in country to long stool Germany to the States. I get medevaced out to long stool Germany. Everyone there kind of shrugs their shoulders, and I don't know what's wrong with them, what's happening. And at this point, is raising up to my chest, and I do a full body X-ray, and they're starting to have fluid in my lungs. So they're kind of like, oh well, everything just kind of going at this point, and no one knows why. So then they I don't know if it's called an induced coma, but they kind of induced me. I lost 3 days, and I woke up in Walter Reed.
I mean, obviously that has to be like a really long road of like recovery. Like, what did those early days like look like?
Depressing, like
Yeah.
extremely depressing. The first day in Walter Reed, I woke up to my mom at my bedside and my dad and this team of neurologists because Walter Reed is a teaching hospital. So they never really come in solo. They're kind of like, hey, it's me and all of my friends. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'm expecting more of an intimate moment because I don't know what's going on. And he begins to explain to me, like, hey, this is what happened to you. We took x rays of your spine. You have a lot of dark matter in your C2 from your scan, which just means there's no light transmitting nerve wise to send signals to your brain or from your brain to your limbs. He's like, well, you're probably never going to walk again, let alone bear your own weight. And then at that point, I was just like,
Yeah.
and it took me a little bit to kind of digest that. I immediately just start waterfalls. It's just bawling
Yeah.
because I went from, being in Afghanistan and probably some the best shape of my life to laying in the bed doing nothing. So from there, they weren't originally going to put me in physical therapy or occupational therapy because it was just kind of like there's not that much that we can do for you. They almost treated it as if like I was severed at my C2 because there was so much dark matter in my spinal column.
What got you to like them to let you do PT and OT?
So like a day or two passed, and I'm kind of doing this grieving process with my mom, and we're just kind of conversating. And my mom's a registered nurse; she's an LPN and an RN, so she left work immediately to come by my bedside, and I was kind of like, I had phantom pains where since I couldn't feel my legs anymore, like the sense of them, I still had pain in my legs. And I was explaining that to my mom, and she was like, "Well, maybe I can rub it and it'll kind of make it go away." And she started to rub my foot. Then I noticed that I was able to move my left toe, like barely, like kind of a twinge. And she felt me move it. She said, "Can you do it again?" And I was like, "I'll try." But it was mentally exhausting just to move my toe. So I waited a couple minutes and then I tried to do it again, like so much so like I would sweat as if I did like 30 push-ups, 30 sit-ups, and then just to move my toe uh, a millimeter. So she told my neurologist team that he's like, "Hey, my son has movement in his lower extremities." And he was kind of like, yeah, that's great. We've seen the X-rays. I don't. That's fine.
Yeah.
So they come in 3 times a day, 9, 12, and close of business just to kind of do like updates. And I told him, I said, hey, at lunch, I'm gonna move my toe for you. And he's still kind of giving me the, that's cute, Antonio. We'll be here at 12. So he comes in at lunch. I'm eating that great hospital food, and I tell him that like I'm ready. I can do it. And it took about 2 minutes for me to think about moving my toe, and then I moved it. And then he wanted to make sure this wasn't like some random phantom kind of movement, and
Yeah.
I ended up doing it again. And then he immediately wrote me a script, and I started doing occupational therapy and physical therapy because I guess there was some sign or semblance of it could work again. Just to give you a better understanding from a medical perspective, I don't know. I'm just regurgitating stuff that I heard.
Mhm.
But there's a sheath that protects your nerve endings, and it's called myelin. That myelin had inflamed, therefore compressing my nerve endings, hence the inability to transmit. They gave me a 2 hour drip called IVIG. I don't know what that stands for. I did at one time, but it's supposed to reduce the inflammation, and I have to do that every day for 5 days for 2 hours. But the kick is that I can't go to sleep during this trip. So they gave me Motrin to kind of suppress the pain, but it also made me sleepy. So that was a fun 2 hours for 5 days. So that brung the inflammation down, and then I started to get more neurotransmission, and I was able to move my toe to my foot to my ankle in a matter of like a week, which sounds really, really long, but it was significant progress for such a short time. And then that's when the rigor of occupational therapy and physical therapy that you're very
Yeah.
familiar with, and that sucked because it was extremely hard. So when I got to the core, they would literally sit me up and say, "Don't fall over," and then of course I would fall over because I
Yeah.
had to learn how to uh,
Move.
just move all
Yeah.
over again. So like down to getting dressed, transitioning from bed to chair, chair to car, or just any sort of movement just kind of took a long
Yeah.
time.
When I had to do PT and OT, I was 3 years old. So, it's hard to get like a little girl to try and do pick up this, pick the pegs out of this thing, or, put your hair in a ponytail. Like you can't get a kid to do that.
Right.
So it was hard for my therapist to get me to want to do it. But obviously for you had to rebuild. I was birthed with it. So it was you started from the get-go of how do I put my hair in a ponytail, or how do I put on necklaces, and you know like well, obviously as a 3-year old you're not doing necklaces, but getting dressed, I mainly do stuff with my right arm, but getting my therapist to get me to want to do that was probably the most challenging part of mine, because no little girl wants to be sitting in a room just picking pegs with her left hand out of things. And it's a little harder for me to remember because I was really young, but from the stories I hear and the pictures I've seen, I it was it was probably not my best moments.
So I went from a wheelchair and just kind of chucking myself around to a walker, like the epitome of a walker, even with the tennis balls in the front. So embarrassing. I would go around the posts and to and from the gym and go to my appointments in the walkers, sliding around ever so gracefully. And then I transitioned into two canes, and that's when the Bioness was incorporated. I had two different versions. I had the before the go, where it had the Bluetooth sensor in the shoe, and I think it was no, I don't think there wasn't a gyroscope. Gyroscope is in the go, I believe. But that was very helpful because it was the stem in that familiarization of this is when your leg should fire, because I don't have any proprioception in my legs, and I didn't have any dorsiflexion in my left foot. But after using the Bioness, the first one, and then the Go, it started to just continue to spark that muscle alongside my calf. And then I was able to kind of do it on my own, but then not at the same rate as my right foot. So eventually, while having two canes and the Bioness, I was able to transition from the two to one cane, and then the one cane to no canes.
I also used the L300 Go. It always helps me gain strength, because obviously, rebuilding that, you have to gain this also the strength in my left side. So I love the L300 Go. Obviously, we have amazing technology now, so we're very lucky that we get to use that type of stuff. What kept you going during when you were, obviously you said PT and OT was hard. What kept you
Um,
moving?
I'm just super stubborn.
Yeah.
And we mentioned resilience a lot when we had the call. I literally have resilience tattooed on my forearm. I'm just a really stubborn individual,
Yeah.
and sometimes to my own detriment. But in this particular case, I just refused to sit down. Like I wasn't done. Like I was
Yeah.
only 30 at that point, which is probably still really old to you. But I just wasn't ready to. I wasn't ready for that ending. So I
Yeah.
just kind of had this drive about me that I think I've always had. And I was just like, I refuse to just be bedridden for the rest of my life. Like, there's still more road for me to travel. And I mean, I did. I mean, I can't tell you that if encountered with this again, that it would have had the same outcome, but I would have tried just as hard to
Yeah.
see.
If you guys watched, if this is the first one you've watched, if you haven't gone and watched the first episode, you should go do that. But I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a lacrosse goalie, and I work with like some goalie coaches, and they all are like, you know, you all are just like just the goalie community, or like just like especially me, like just so stubborn. Like you can't tell them like because like I there was this one practice I was like so close to blacking out, and I was just trying to get through a drill, and I was like, no, like it's fine, like this is my private lesson, I only have an hour, like let's just get through this. And she's like, you're so stubborn, like you're going to pass out and I'm gonna have to deal with it. And I was like, I refused to sit down. I just chugged some water, got through the drill, and
That's how you need it.
exactly, like I didn't want to give up. And that's also with the PT and OT, like you had a goal and you just wanted to figure out how to do it. I mean,
Yep.
so many times I'd just be crying in my room being like, I cannot do this or I cannot do that. Like just I'd get so frustrated. So I understand where you're coming from with
Well,
like,
I have a stubborn story for you. It's like,
yeah,
so
sure.
you know how they give you milestones and goals. Like if you
Mm.
do this, then you can start doing that. So I transferred from Walter Reed to NIH as outpatient because they kind of specialize in that neurologist stuff. So as you complete certain tasks, they say, all right, cool, we'll kind of take the parent chaperone bowling guardrails off. So I finally got to shower by myself. That sounds like a very silly accomplishment, but I got tired of the old ladies at the hospital helping me with
Yeah.
those things. So I finally was like, sweet, I can roll into the shower, I can transition into the seat, and I can wash my own butt by
Nice.
myself.
Yeah.
But that in that instance, that same day, I had an incident where I fell because when you're not really ambulatory, like they always check, did you fall today? Did you fall today? Did you fall today?
Yeah.
So I didn't really fall. I just kind of slowly and gracefully landed on the floor in the shower, and my legs weren't that strong, so I was kind of reliant just solely on upper body. When I tell you, at a minimum, I was in that shower for 45 minutes trying to get off the floor, and I didn't pull that little string. I didn't call or yell for anybody. They'll probably find out today if they watch. But I finally made it back to the seat and then finished cleaning up and then transitioning back to my wheelchair. And because when you fall, you go backwards. They go, oh, well, you need to be
Yeah.
monitored again. And then we have to have the people come and help you again. And I was like,
I'm not
no
doing
way.
that. Nope. Nope. Obviously, like you had to regain your strength and your movement, but for me, it's a lot of the time it was like thinking about you wanting to be able to do it. Like, what was your mindset? Because like your mental pain had to be just as struggling as like the physical, because it's all about the mindset of I can do it. I just need to try, or just one more time. Like, what was your mental like mindset?
So it was kind of like a tennis match with yourself, right? Where it's kind of like when you tell your brain, when you tell your body to do something, and it's almost like your body refuses, and then you have like this internal discord where you're kind of like, we can do this. Like you, the body, you just need to get on the same page that me that I'm on mentally. So for me, it was just kind of like I know I can't. I guess I can't will myself to do something my body isn't capable of doing. But it was just a constant struggle and just being frustrated
Yeah.
and just not quitting because that's not in my arsenal
Yeah.
of just things that I like to do.
Same, because I always am like, what do you mean you don't want me to try anymore? Like, I'm obviously gonna keep trying
Yep.
to do it. Because what you tell me I can't do something? No, that's not how it
Yeah.
works.
That adds fuel to the fire.
Right? No, I have to do it because I have to prove you wrong.
Yep.
Because that's just you're not gonna tell me I can't do something. For me mentally, it was all like you would fail. Like it took me probably like two, maybe a couple, like 6 months to figure out how to just do my earrings,
Mm.
because you have to like what earrings work best for you, like how will I be able to angle it to do it with like one hand. And it was all the mindset of like I want to be able to do this by myself, and like I want to, like I think I started getting independent at like 10, because I was like I don't, that's probably later than most kids. I wanted to be able to do stuff all by myself because I didn't want like to have help all the time, like you said with the shower. Like I
Yep.
didn't want to have people. I wanted to be able to do it by myself. So I didn't like, not me being impatient, but like, hey, I need help. Can you come? And then it's like 30 minutes when I could have
Yeah.
just done it real quick right then and there. I know you said your mom was by your bedside.
Mm.
How'd they support you and lift you up?
So that was actually Pretty good. So when I was in Afghanistan, I was working directly for a 3-star, kind of doing comms and somewhat security for him
Hmm.
because everyone has like multiple hats that we wear. He made sure that I was taken care of from the perspective of getting there, making sure that my wife was able to come see me. Like they literally gave her a compassionate reassignment to station her from Fort Bragg to the National Capital Region. Like no questions asked, expedited to move her and my daughter down to Maryland because that was now my new duty station, which was Walter Reed. I had, I think day one, I had like 10 or 15 guests. Like I wasn't supposed to have as many guests, and because it was inpatient and they limited to like two. But of course, since it's a military hospital, if you have a 3-star on your side, like rules can be changed. But I had a lot of visitors. I had a lot of support. The more people found out that I was home early because of my injury, it was just this huge influx of just support and people coming in just to say hey, and of course like my old army brothers still make fun of me because nothing's changed. But that was nice. It was good to have that support. It was good to know that my mom was like, yeah, I don't care about my job. I'm going to come here and I'm going to take care of you
Yeah.
until you're all figured out.
Yeah.
So even my people from my mom's job who still remembered me when I was a young little short lad that was serving ice and helping the patients out at Doctors Community Hospital. So it was very supportive on
Yeah.
both sides.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've always had, a good lifting up and supporting system saying, like, keep going. I had to do a camp where I had my right arm fully casted and I only could use my left arm. And my parents just had to sit there and say, feed yourself and do all these things. That was so rough. But, they supported me and then I got through it. And now it's like that helped me, like, be where I am today and have as much movement as I do have. If you could look back at like the earlier days, what would you say to yourself?
Knowing what I know now, I would probably just give myself some weird, obscure advice like, hey, it's going to be cool, but like, and don't really give any detail.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like if I were to tell myself, hey, this is exactly what your life is going to look like 10 to 15 years after injury, I know my internal mood would change and then it would bring down my drive,
Yeah.
right? But I think the ability of not knowing and just having that I have to try because I don't know what's at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah.
I probably would have gave myself as little information as possible, but also some little assurance of like it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. The fear of not knowing is like so powerful, like
Yeah,
in good and bad ways. Like you're like, but I just want to know, but I don't want to know.
right.
But because if you do know, then
It changes the
whether you,
outcome,
whether you like it or not, then
right?
you want to change the outcome.
Like how I transitioned from active duty. So like let's just say post hospital. I used to go to a lot of events at Walter Reed because everyone comes up there and like here's a free bag. You want to go fishing and like all of these little trips to kind of do like retreats to kind of help with the mental aspect, which I think is great. But me and my stubbornness, I was like, yeah, we'll fix my brain later. I want to get physically active and is back to some semblance of normalcy as possible. So I would go to events. I would go to like Wounded Warrior Project and go to their dinners, and you would meet a bunch of people, and they were also very helpful with just creating a community of like other wounded warriors. I met a lot of great people while I went through Walter Reed, and I have like lifetime friendships based on these just total strangers because we kind of commiserated over just being broken together, right? And we went to I think it was a soft SOCOM dinner, and I met Jared Shepard, who was a CEO of Intelligent Waves, which is an IT company that provides IT services for the government. And he seen me there, and he was like, "Hey, what's your deal?" This is when I was in a wheelchair. So the transition from me going with him took like maybe a year and a half because again, I'm stubborn, and I was like, I'm not ready for a job. I don't want a job. I'm still in them. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. Get out of here, stranger. Then I see him again at another event, and I'm getting better. Like he sees me, and I have I think 2 canes at that point. He's like, oh, last time I seen you, you were in a wheelchair. He's like, so, yeah, what are you gonna do next? I didn't know then. I don't know now. Go away.
Yeah.
I'm only worried about like going to do PT and OT. And then I see him for the third time at a it was an IT conference because I was trying to get like my resume looked at, and now I'm kind of getting back into it. And then he asked me again. He was like, "Hey man, funny seeing you here again. He's like, you feel like you're getting better. What are you doing next?" And I was like, you're just gonna keep doing this." So I was like, I don't know. Like I told him I was a 25 Bravo in the Army. He was also like a 25 series, so we had that similar job in service.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, would you like to do an internship?" And I was like, "Sure. Like, what does that consist of?" He said, "I don't know, but come to my office, someday next week, and we'll figure it out." I say, "Cool. Well, I have physical therapy and occupational therapy, so once that's over, you can have that time." So I go down there. He shows me his company, his personnel. He was like, "Well, what do you know? Like, what is your background?" I explain it to him. He finds me a spot to do this paid intern. Well, initially it was a non-paid intern, but I was still active, so I wasn't really concerned about finances at that point. I do that for 6 to 9 months. Then he offered me a job, which I thought was really cool to kind of help me transition from active duty military to, a real functioning civilian that's living on his own and like kind of back into society, which turned into what is now known as Warriors Ethos, which is a nonprofit that he is the founder of. I am an alumni and a board member, and literally the first person to go through it before it even became a thing. So I kind of established myself as the blueprint, so to speak, to how we began to start this nonprofit, which literally just helps people transition from military active duty services to the civilian world. I take a handful a year of people that I mentor, where I just ask the same question that he asked me back then and say, "Hey, what do you want to do? What's your injury? What's your limitations? What's your background? Do you even want to do that anymore? Do you want to start over? Like, let's just figure it out." And we purposely kind of stay small to keep that high level of touch, as opposed to just like, "Hey guys, here's a newsletter. You can go get your resume done down the street for free." We actually sit down or meet in person, coffee, lunch, dinner, and we actually talk these things out. I give them all my personal cell phone number, so if they actually need me for any professional or personal things, especially when they're like, "Hey man, this I'm going through physical therapy. This sucks. I'm having my wife left me because I'm not the same man that I used." It's a whole bunch of just those intangibles that
Yeah.
you don't really get or understand until you're kind of in it. So we provide a support system as well as we help people transition. And I think we're on like our 8th year, but we have a Christmas party every year, and we have a lot of sponsorships. We bring out the new soldiers that we help transition through, and we kind of celebrate them and acknowledge them and say, "Hey, this guy was X. He went through all of these trials and tribulations, and now he's this. He has a new start, new career," but not forgetting that, we all have that base structure of like we've all been injured or
Yeah.
still injured and working through those, but life has to continue to go on, and we just can't sit in a hospital, continue to try to get better. So that's kind of the basis of what we do for that nonprofit and how I went through that process.
I mean, yeah, that's amazing. You've done just so much for the community. I mean, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
It means so much. The fact that you kept moving and kept moving forward. But for those who are watching, this proof that, not everyone recovers the same and not everyone goes through the exact same things to get to where, they are today. You're not alone. You have a big community of people who, may not have the same thing, but may connect in some ways. But I'm Reagan Bischoff, and thank you, Antonio. Thank you so much for watching. We are looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Okay, bye.